Hello. So the thoughts come from the future. That's the only thing that I can come up with, is that the physical realm moves slower than the speed of light and forward in time, and thoughts move faster than the speed of light backward in time. So our thoughts are not from this realm. They're not from they're separated. It's the mind aspect. The mind aspect is basically the illusion of the ego separate from the self through time separation, not space separation. And I've been toying with the idea that the different realms that make up the body, maybe they generate thought, because, like I said, thoughts are not, you can't find the source of thought in the senses. So it's not part of the outside world. So when you look in at the body, it goes body, cells, molecules, atoms, subatomic particles, and maybe, and the further you look into these different realms, the more they move into being, hi Paige, the more they move from being physically based to being thought based. So as you keep going down, subatomic particles they hardly exist at all in the physical realm, if at all. So they're just about all thought. So an electron is just about all thought. I know it's wild to think of it this way, but so maybe it's these realms that are smaller and inside the body, that somehow that's where our thoughts are generated in the body. Maybe there's some sort of electric, I don't know, to be honest, how it actually works. Yeah, it's like the wave. It's the wave function. I believe that the wave function is an expression of this thought realm that's everywhere at once, right? So the body exists. So you exist. Let's say that the body is a location. Your name here is known by the higher intelligence as the location. It's like the Walmart in whatever town. If you know that town, you know that location. It's the same with the self. The self knows Roy Dobson as being a location. So, in that respect, I am in the same location, being this, at different times. So, I'm in the same place at different times as the body. But as the mind, I'm in different places at the same time. So it's the same time at the same time at different places. So this is how it all works together, is that somehow the mind is everything at once. It's all like a wave, it's like a field. And if some advanced physicist or whatever wanted to work with me on this, I think that they could probably get somewhere with this new model, right? So basically, thoughts are our future ego. It's they're from the future, basically. I used to be a screenwriter. I've written 3 screenplays, one of which doesn't suck. But yeah, I used to be into screenwriting a while ago, and sci-fi is my favorite genre. But it's more like traveling through your own consciousness rather than going through space. You can, and then you have to ask, well, you don't have to, but you could ask the question, why do we want to leave the surface of the planet? Why do we want to overcome gravity? Like if you look at the more life evolves, or the more maybe self-awareness that develops, you, it's a gravity, isn't it? Like the trees that I'm looking at, they are moving against gravity, right? Whereas a rock can't do that. And a rock, I would imagine, has less awareness than a tree. And humans having the most awareness, well, we've conquered gravity. Like we've somehow managed through technology to to break free of gravity. So why does it seem like as evolution increases or develops, there's this move against gravity, right? It's like we want to escape. It's almost like consciousness wants to escape this realm, but you can't. It's like a Sims character realizing that it's a Sims character, or that which is playing the Sims character is trying to break free of thinking that it's a Sims character by the Sims character leaving the screen, right? The Sims, you can't, a Sims character in a video game, any type of character in a video game, the way to escape the game isn't by that which is in that realm leaving that realm. It's not possible, right? It's realizing what's real. It's coming to realization that you're actually not that. So I think that this drive to like break gravity and then break the speed, maybe all of this movement is an attempt to escape this realm, because that's the purpose of it. And it's people who commit suicide, that's exactly what they're doing, right? They're trying to escape this realm. So I think that every movement against gravity is subconsciously an attempt to win the game, which is escaping it, right? The way to escape it is to realize that you're not in it. You're not really a part of it. It's hardwired, right? Like the faster you go, the more energy that's required to keep going faster until you reach it's hardwired into reality that physical objects can't escape the physical realm because it's the physical realm. They're part of the functioning of the screen, right? Like a computer character. So suicide doesn't work to escape, and getting off the planet and beating gravity and perhaps trying to fly, I don't know where, out of this universe, that doesn't work either. So this is the tool. Like this body mind complex is the tool that we are given to figure this out. And this is the adequate tool that's required to figure all this out and to escape the game. So developing other tools through technology, then none of that works. Those aren't the appropriate tools. This is the tool required to realize Asian. But we haven't figured out how to use it properly to do that. That's what I'm trying to show here is the way in which to do this whole escaping thing. When we die, physical suffering ends. It doesn't mean there's no mental or emotional turmoil on the other side. We just don't take our earthly problems with us. Yeah, that's true. It's there's karmic momentum keeps the process going, right? So whatever you haven't realized in this life that causes you suffering, it'll be it'll continue on in the next world, the next life. And the reason the species is moving away from the physical realm, it's no longer taking the physical realm to be ultimate fundamental reality, and it's taking the thought realm to be and the digital realm to be more of the fundamental reality. So the suffering is switching from physical suffering to emotional suffering, and boy do we ever have a lot of emotional suffering. Yes, man, humanity is not as wise as we think we are. We're not wise at all. Yeah, so getting back to how to end the game and win the game and and conclude it and escape is not through movement, it's through stillness, right? Because science has said shown that the faster you move, the more the gravity increases, and the more you want to move, the greater the resistance is to stop that movement. So maybe it's showing us that the way to escape is to stop rather than through more movement. So it's stillness, stillness in body and stillness in mind that that gets us out of this. Well, what's humanity doing? We're speeding up, right? Humanity, there's more thoughts all the time, and there's more movement all the time. And like revving a car's engine, just flooring it the whole time, something's going to blow. Stillness is the answer. No, I'm not much of a swimmer. This lake never gets warm. Like in its deepest spot, it's like 800 feet deep. It's a massive lake, and I don't think it ever gets warm enough to go comfortably swimming in it. I would like to get a boat though. Don't have a boat yet. Wouldn't low frequency of brain activity during sleep just mean that the process of consciousness are in idle mode? But what's the threshold? If the voice in your head is firings of neurons, electrical activity in the brain, and the senses from the outside world are also electrical impulses in the brain, as well as when I do this, that's also electrical impulses in the brain. Then, when there are electrical impulses in the brain when you're sleeping, how is there no experience? I guess that's what I'm getting at in that last video that I made is if everything's just electrical impulses in the brain, then how can there be nothing when there are electrical impulses in the brain? Like dreamless sleep is the same as being dead basically. You're unconscious while you're in dreamless sleep. So we can't call the ground of being consciousness if you're not conscious while you're sleeping, because the inference would be that you don't exist while you're sleeping, if that's the case. So this is why if I'm ever going to have a discussion with a person about consciousness, it's going to have these rules in place that awareness will be used as the word to describe fundamental reality, and consciousness is the content of awareness. It's awareness of something. So Advaita Vedanta, I've heard so many spiritual people trying to clear up the difference between mind and consciousness. Well, if we just adapt my model, then that clears it all up, because a thought is mind and a thought is awareness of something. So there it's the content of awareness, but awareness doesn't have to have content, like in dreamless sleep. So we should just, I know it's been thousands of years that they use the word consciousness, but they've got to switch it because now consciousness doesn't mean what it used to mean. So they've got to adapt. Just replace consciousness with awareness and then have consciousness, awareness of something. That's it. Simple pimple. Yeah, but there is a third, again, the third person perspective is an assumption. There's no one has ever experienced a third person perspective. It's imagined. There is no such thing as third person perspective, right? There's just there's a single awareness, and it's always in first person. It's always I. There's only an I. There's no we or us or they or her or him. There's just eyes. There's just one I. So the content of awareness is always different. That's what makes it appear is the changing of it. It's always in constant flux. So the content of awareness is always changing. It's always different. Down to the Planck scale of time, it's different each step of the way. But the awareness, the frame of reference upon which all that is measured or witnessed, that is the same. That is one. It's It's incredibly simple. After a person breaks out of a cult, it all seems so ridiculously obvious. But while you're in the cult, you can't see anything fucking straight, right? You're totally brainwashed. And this is what school has done to us. Academia has completely brainwashed us. The thought process itself is not what we take it to be. Thought, the voice in your head, is neither truth nor is it you. We've been completely duped to accept that the voice in consciousness is somehow true and somehow the self. And it is neither. That is what makes Satan and Maya so formidable of an opponent, because look what it's done. When when someone sees a body, they say that person, whatever that person's name is, Bob's gone. But if Bob was the body and the body's there, then where's Bob? Right? It's this simple. Materialists can't even get past this simple question, this simple thought experiment. If Bob is the body and then Bob goes away, when Bob's not here, he's dead, then why is the body still there? Look, Bob's right there. If Bob is the body, then Bob's right there. But we know that there's something else that isn't there. Something's gone, something's changed, and Bob isn't there anymore. But there's a body that we used to call Bob, but that's not Bob, obviously. Welcome. The Denissa I know, or a different Denissa? Ah, okay. Well, welcome, Denissa. Well, free will is an illusion, but see, this is why the word consciousness is a bad word to use to express fundamental reality, because a person can be unconscious and yet still exist. So consciousness shouldn't be used anymore to describe fundamental reality. Yeah, this is how academics are, is that some of them are coming to the conclusion that the sense of self is an illusion. So that they don't exist, basically, right? Like they're questioning their own existence. They're questioning their own awareness. Like that's messed up, right? The Buddhists have the same issue, is that there's no self. It's like, well, so you're denying your own existence. It's just bizarre to me. They're confused, but they're so close and yet so far. How can you be so close to understanding everything and getting it and yet deny your own existence? So this is kind of what happened when the X thing came on. I didn't know that it was, so I said, well, what's this X thing? I didn't ask for this app, so I got rid of it, and then it bounced me out of my old account, so I can't access my old Twitter account anymore. So I started a new one. So I had like 300 followers on the old Twitter account, and now I have like 5 because that I can't access the old one. I have no idea how computers work. None of it makes any sense to me. And that's another like this hard problem of consciousness, how the mind body process works. Well, if someone I asked a friend of mine that really knows a lot about computers, how computers work, and he described it to me, and it still didn't make sense. How it can go from just turning on an electrical implement like a fucking fridge or something, and somehow all of that electricity somehow transforms itself into what's happening on the screen. It's mechanistic, and yet it's not. Truth, no one knows what truth is anymore. You can't trust anyone. Especially those people who were supposed to trust, like the bank and the government. Those are the three institutions you can trust the least, and they're the ones that we're supposed to have all the trust in. We trust them with our money, we trust them with running society, and they're all liars. Basically, they all work to manipulate language to propagate their own truth, right? Language is a spin on truth. It's not truth itself. It's a twist on truth. It's exactly not truth. And it's getting more and more twisted all the time. And now with deep fakes, like within a couple of years, deep fakes will be completely like the ones that just anyone can just create will be able to fool everyone. It'll be indistinguishable a deep fake from an actual recording. And then when that happens, we're going to need the blockchain for some sort of relative truth that we can actually believe in. Hey, SS. The whole gang's here today. Woohoo! Yeah, we're a gang. We should get some sort of a secret handshake or symbol or something, eh? It's not nothing, though, is it? A non-conceptualist meeting another non-conceptualist, we wouldn't even say hi. We wouldn't even acknowledge each other's existence. Like, it's self-evident. I don't need to reinforce your existence. Oh, there's a fox. Oh, there it is. Foxy teens. I bet you they're really good musicians, or they could be just made for video. Foxy teens. So I'm going to touch a little bit of realm here and coming down the pipe in 2024. Okay, yeah, it's I keep harping on this math thing because it's only the biggest deal in mathematics and philosophy, like in history, and it's too simple for people to accept and too audacious, right? It's people just, it's not difficult to accept. It's just difficult. It's not difficult to understand. It's just difficult to accept. So in the relative realm here, things are going to really hit the fan in 2024. And the way to prepare for it, like the entire fiat currency monetary system is collapsing. And if you can, maybe buy some Bitcoin, get some physical silver, move to the country, do what we're doing here, like try to become self-sufficient as possible. Because when this starts going, it's going to go real fast. But of course, the most important thing is to realize that this is all a dream. So then you won't be nearly as affected by it when it does collapse and turn into a nightmare. Like, we've done this before, and science and mathematicians just keep going on their path. And this is where the idea of hell came from. We've gone through this before, and that's why we have this memory of hell. And hell is fire. So fire is the nuclear realm. As far as I'm concerned, we are going to be extinguished because we're fucking around where we shouldn't be in the atomic realm, which is mostly thought. So like I said earlier in the video, the more we investigate through the technology, right, through the machines, the tools that we've developed through technology, to be able to mess with these different layers that are inside us, right? Body, cellular, molecular, atomic, quarks. So as we keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper, they become less physical and more thought. So when you get to a subatomic particle like an electron, it's 99.999999997% thought. It doesn't even really exist in this realm. And when the revelation is talking about the apocalypse and how it's going to be destroyed by fire, well, isn't that nuclear weapons? Either nuclear weapons or the melting down of nuclear power plants. So it's going to be really bad. And what happens to a Ponzi scheme when it starts collapsing? It starts feeding on itself. So literally, when the food runs out, when there's no more food getting to the grocery stores in the cities, humans will be eating each other. This is going to happen within the next 20 years for sure. This is hell. This is hell, and it's less than 2 decades away. So this isn't fear. This isn't trying to drum people up into a tizzy to get them to do what I want them to do. It's just my observations and reasoning about what's happening with the climate. So this makes it all more, it just stresses how important the spiritual life is here, because the best way to deal with hell is to realize that it's not real. Prepare as best you can in the relative realm to make it less hellish. But it's all going to collapse really, really fast because of our deep, deep, deep delusion. No one can see it coming. because we're so fucking blind. We can't see past our phones, right? So we're so we're so biased to never want to hear anything negative, right? It's that the triune system, our bias is so much on the one side, the right side, the positive side, right? We're so biased towards life, birth, and and we don't, when we want to ignore the other side, which is death and negative and the negative. So we just keep trying to kill off or ignore the negative side of the triune, and we just want to be all just experience the positive side. But that's impossible. It's like trying to swing only up. You can't just swing only up, right? So we've artificially tried to keep the swing up. And the higher and higher we go, and the longer we artificially keep it up, the bigger the swing back, right? Because it's inevitable. This is debt, karmic debt. And again, it's all fractal because the debt that the fiat currency system has accumulated is the same fractal expression as the karmic debt that humanity itself has spiritually produced for itself, right? It's all fractal, it's all expressing the same thing. But this is what's so hard to accept, is that the physical realm itself is metaphor. The physical realm itself is metaphor as much as the financial system or any other metaphor. So although it may appear as though a dude is just sitting here doing nothing, what's actually occurring is the best way to help, because there is a collective consciousness. And the more that our little group can sit and be in that frequency of stillness, it's like buying a little extra time for all of humanity. Do you see? If there's no stillness in all of humanity, then that's when everything collapses. So, in a way, it's like we are holding the door open of a burning building for more people to get out, the longer we can sit in stillness, right? So this is the highest calling. This is the best thing that we could possibly do to help, to absolutely just sit in stillness. It's the best way. But it's unseen, right? Like I said earlier, it's not about actions. It's not about doing. Doing isn't helping. It's the stillness and the silence that that helps. And the more that we as a group do this, the more this will be our world, right? We are in a way forming our own agreed upon reality. My reality is my world is my world, your world is your world. Everybody's life is actually their own universe, but when they come together, there's an agreed upon collective world, and our world will be the opposite of what the other world, what everyone else is agreeing upon. You see? So this is the big secret, right? The secret isn't about, remember the secret where you could change your life just by thinking about it? It's way deeper than that. The secret is, it isn't willpower, it's is power, right? It's not about willpower. Will is always something in the future, right? Something will happen. So you're trying to change something that's already occurred, which is impossible. But the is power, it is the greatest power. You're aligning yourself with the functioning of the universe itself. Instead of trying to the I doing something, pushing against the entire universe to try to do something, you're going along with it. So although it doesn't appear as such from an outside perspective, the best way to help and the best way to fix everything is to just hit stillness. Just let go and let God, as the Christians say, without knowing what they're saying or how to do it. Mm, yeah, we've unbalanced things with our bias towards the one side of the Trinity, right? And now it's swinging back. All of that debt, all of that unnatural, artificial lengthening of the cycle, if you will, is just going to make it worse. Just like the financial system, they should have let it collapse in 2008, but they didn't, right? So now, when it does collapse, it'll be everything. There has to be, because of basically Taoism and the perfect balance that is the triune system, there has to be as much hell going on, there has to be that much heaven going on. As much delusion is happening, there has to be that much revelation happening as well. Am I not working again? And yeah, don't get sucked back into when you see the world and the way people are acting, don't get sucked into that. This what we're talking about is real. It's not pretend. We're not crazy. So this is really important because we're getting near the end. Like I cannot stress how important every time that you focus on something, it's very important what you put your awareness on. Every little bit helps. Every time be in the stillness. And every time that you can, when a thought comes to you and you can just ignore it and not act on that thought, every time that happens, that's really important. Never been more important. Yeah, it's the reason. It's the reason for life itself. It's the purpose. All of those ancient Hindu myths about gods fighting demons and stuff, that's you. That is each of us dealing with whatever karma is going on in here. The battle isn't with some other demon, it's with your own thoughts. Yes, we are warriors. I want one of our theme songs to be No Quarter by Led Zeppelin. We carry news that must get through. This is the path that no one goes. Hey? And it's a kick ass song, too. We hold no quarter. We give no sympathy or empathy to Maya. And Brahman equals no thoughts. Brahman would include all of the gods and all of the demons, or the Tao. The Tao would be perfect neutrality, just pure observation. Yeah, we're it's a it's like Jim Carrey when he played the that comedian there. we get God has become so immersed that it's separating, giving up the act, getting out of character. It's been in character for like 13.7 billion years. So it's hard. From the perspective of the character, if you believe the self is your name here, the process of the self stopping the act from the character's point of view is quite confusing, isn't it? In order for God to entertain itself, it would construct something like a puzzle or a mystery or a system in which not even it knows exactly what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. So, in order to enter, yeah, I've gone over this. If you're all by yourself, you can't really play badminton, right? So, I used to love badminton. So, you would design something like a puzzle, and then you'd have to play along with it, right? You'd have to, like going to a play, a live play, everyone's agreed to play along with it, right? You don't stand up in the middle of the play and say, "Hey, everyone, stop crying or stop laughing. This is just a play," right? So there's two aspects. There's the creation of the thing that is going to provide the entertainment, which is just you. And because it's just you, there has to be some sort of a forgetting or an acting or pretending that goes along with it. And that's why we have acting. That's why kids pretend and play make believe, right? That's why we have sports and all the playing and all the pretending. It's all fractal of what's happening with reality, with God and your name here. Callie, you're snoring. Yeah, she I think she's got respiratory issues. So that's why she is so loud. Eh? And then enlightenment would is simply being lucid in the dream. I've had a few lucid dreams, and that's exactly what it's like. There's something that is felt, it's a higher level of awareness in the waking state than the normal waking state that most humans have, which is equivalent to not knowing that you're dreaming. So when people talk about these non-dual people talk about enlightenment being a knowing, an understanding, it really isn't. The understanding, and they can say words that are similar to what an person would say, but an enlightened person is describing their immediate experience, where these non-dual people, they're just parroting words that they've heard other people say. and it's focused more on the knowing. And the more that I listen to Swami Sarva Priyananda, even Advaita Vedanta at that level, it's more about knowledge, right? They say that ignorance is the problem, and what dispels ignorance, that's knowledge. But I don't think it is. It's knowledge that comes from not the teaching that you've learned being a Advaita monk. It's knowledge that comes from your direct experience of being enlightened. So I think that even at the highest level, people are still confusing some sort of intellectual understanding or knowledge to be enlightenment, but it isn't. It's a feeling. It's something that is noticed that was not noticed before, and it's there all the time. You just notice it. It's in the forefront now, and before it used to be in the background so much that you wouldn't even notice it. But enlightenment, it comes into lucidity, right? You're lucid. It's there all the time. You understand. It's not that you understand. It's like it's an actual experience. Yeah, cycles. That's how it perceived change. So if it's awareness, if there's only one thing and there's perceived change, then that's just awareness coming back onto itself. And where it comes back onto itself, it's like there's some sort of a time delay, and then there's distinction made between one iteration and another. And there's a trap that a lot of spiritual seekers get into, and it's the same trap that scientists have got into, and that's trying to explain it all, trying to develop the most acute intellectual understanding that you can, like trying to develop the best model or the most succinct, but I've already produced that model, right? But anyway, so even spiritual seekers can get into just just trying to describe reality to ever increasing degrees of resolution. But when you realize that it's holographic in nature, you don't need to do that anymore, because you get one piece of it. Just look at one piece of it completely and fully and understand that one piece, then you understand the whole thing. Well, those are another duality, isn't it? Analog to digital. And that's what's going on. Wave, particle, analog, digital. And it seems like the brain or the nervous system is a conduit, which or a tool that can transmit one to the next, right? It changes analog into digital and digital into analog. And whichever you focus on the most, that will appear as fundamental. Yeah, but what is it that's turning on and off, right? Yeah. But if for me, neither of them are the reality, right? It's just like the whole triune, like the whole fundamental model of reality, analog or digital, that's not the question. Those are the way in which reality presents itself, I guess. So if analog is gravity and digital is, well, or the, I think gravity, well, all of it, like all of it is both, right? Because there's gravitrons, right? There's particles of gravity and there's waves of gravity and there's particles of light and there's waves of light. So again, this is that holographic image that I'm telling you about, is that time you pluck out a piece, even though it appears to be, let's say, a positive piece, you look at it, it contains both positive and negative. And then you look at a negative piece objectively and it's both positive and negative. So you just have to understand, instead of trying to understand each piece of the hologram in isolation, understand, recognize that it's all the same image. So when you just get one, you get all of it. Just remember that anything that you can describe or name or experience, that's an appearance. Oh, is that true? So the larger piece would have a lower resolution piece? Smaller piece has lower resolution. Okay. Yeah, so the universe itself, if that is a hologram, then it can be zoomed in to resolution to Planck scales, hey? That's the resolution to the universe is freaking Planck scale, is that right? Yeah, seems I find it fascinating that when you look at how a hologram is created and you compare that to how the optics of the visual sense works, they almost look identical because they're splitting the laser image into two and then reconstituting it later. And that seems to be what's happening with this system, the visual system. I don't read anyone, so I don't know about anyone. The more important question, Jan Can, is why are you reading him? You must not believe what I'm saying if you're reading someone else. Hey? Yeah, I think is a It's a bad place to go. I don't think the two mix. You can't unify appearances. You have to realize that they're appearances to find the unification that was previous to the system that projected the illusion of duality. So the only way for unity to be realized is to be prior. You're prior to the arising of the appearance of duality that is created by the measurement that is science. Oh, another guy trying to reconcile general. Well, that's just what I said, is that you can't reconcile, you can't unify appearances. The only way to be is to be prior, to exist prior to the bias, which is the word. So to be thought free is to abide in unity. Yeah. It's like Mickey Mouse in The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Yeah, scientists are using a bifurcating method system to try to unify that which the system has bifurcated. It's a fucking mess. Well, simply put, a black hole is metaphor of death, and a white hole is metaphor of birth. I have an artesian well on my property. It just keeps flowing stuff out, eh? And and higher pressure leads to lower pressure, and they're always trying to find unification, right? The high pressure and the low pressure, where they meet, that is the unification. Everything is moving towards unification. Everywhere you look, everything moves towards balance between the two appearances. So the the thought realm and the physical realm could be looked at as a high pressure system and a low pressure system, which is which, it doesn't really matter. And they meet at the singularity, which causes a tornado, which is down the middle is a black hole. But maybe, like I read somewhere, that there isn't a black hole. There's just the tornado without anything in the funnel. We just make stuff up that there's something, that there's a singularity in the middle of the tornado, but it might actually be like in the eye of a hurricane. It's still, isn't it? It's all metaphor saying that the self is the singularity, and everything, time and apparent space, thoughts and sensations arise from that and pass to it. You, the self. Yeah, everything except science. Everything's metaphor. I like ice cream. I don't like reading books. Say hi to everyone. Everyone likes ice cream. Not today, though. My goodness, it's been cold the last few days here. Whew. It went from record warmth to record heat within a week. There's just extremes now. There's just positive followed by negative, followed by positive, followed by negative. Like it's the one extreme followed by the other extreme. There's no peace anymore. Ah, just vanilla. You can do so much with vanilla, right? Yeah, it's right now probably about minus 27 degrees Celsius here. And it's been between minus 27 and minus 37 for the last 3, 4 days. It's really hard to keep this monstrosity of a house warm. Right now, it's about 15 degrees in this house. And where Paige lives in Saskatoon, it's been minus 30, 37. Mint. Oh, mint. My whole opinion of you has just been shattered, SS. Mint. Yeah, mine in Saskatoon. In Saskatoon, it hits minus 37, minus 40, probably 10 days out of every year, at least. It's nasty. Mint chocolate chip, right? You can't just have mint ice cream. Isn't it mint chocolate chip? Mango ice cream? Pff, minus 50 with the wind chill. Yeah. That's why Canadians are so tough. We're tough, aren't we, Paige? My first job out of high school, I worked outside in the winter, like outside all day. Ugh. Banana ice cream. It even sounds healthy, Paige. Well, gang, I think I'm gonna call her or get some food, hey Callie, and put more wood on this fire because, like I said, it's not possible to keep this house warm when it's this cold. It's like a cathedral. Say bye, Callie. Bye. All right. We'll see you next weekend, except SS, because he's going to be on this grand adventure, enlightening his professor. All right. See you guys. Hold the stillness. Hold the stillness.